Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning. Last Saturday of the month. Welcome to the Aurum podcast, where we discuss all matters in relation to building effective teams in the workplace. I am your host, Anthony Kuria, and with me is my co host and our in house HR specialist, Zipporah Kuria. Welcome, Zippy.
Thank you, Anthony. Good morning.
Yes. Today, we have a guest, a special friend of ours, a friend of ours who has been with us, Milima na Mabonde, Mr. Kenjie Kirimi, the team lead. That's the title he likes to use, the team lead in Bawa Connect. Kenjie is an entrepreneur, an employer, and a great friend of Aurum Consultants. Welcome, Kenjie.
Thank you, Tony. Good morning.
Morning.
Sorry, have a slight cold, but we will push on.
Don't worry. Ukishatumia Kaluma, you are uko fiti kabisa. You are really good to go.
Kabisa.
Now, come on. Now, this month, we've been discussing lots concerning employee relations. As you know, we've discussed various aspects. We have brought in experts, people who are HR specialists, HR managers running teams, running into the hundreds, people who have had experience 10, 20 plus years. They have, let me not say they have seen it all, but they have handled stuff. They have worked in the NGO world, some have worked in the corporate world, some in the SME, in the SME world. They have handled big and small teams. And today, even as we want to conclude this month's theme of employee relations, we looked forward to Bwana Kenjie here because being an employer, being an entrepreneur, Kenjie, you're not just a HR. I mean, you're not. For you, from your perspective, it's not just about the speciality of HR. It is just the whole aspect of employee relations. Could you probably, before I speak to you, let me speak to Zippy, because Zippy is the one who can set us the theme, and then you and I can flow. Now, Zippy, tell us, when it comes to employee relations, how is the risk management aspect handled from your perspective?
Thank you, Anthony, and thank you, Kenjie. Karibu. I think before even we talk about the risks that come with employee relations, it's important for us to understand whether there are risks or there are no risks in the first place. And I would start by saying, when you engage the right teams, there's a lot of advantages that come with it. So as organizations, I think the first thing we need to know is we need to engage the right people for the right jobs from the word go. But even as we engage these people, of course, there are risks that come with engaging people. And I'm sure even from a business perspective, when you're having to deal with suppliers, deal with, other partners in business, there are risks that come with it. And of course, we have to put measures in place to make sure we mitigate some of these risks. And it's the same thing when it comes to engaging team members. There are risks that come with engaging people in the business. And the question is, what are some of these risks that would come in, and how do we mitigate these risks? So that, again, even as we are talking about employee relations, we are understanding these are the risks that we could be faced with, and we need to find a way of mitigating them. And I think one of the risks that we'll talk about will be litigations. And this affects whether it's suppliers, whether it's employees, whether it's partners in business. There's a risk of litigation depending on how you manage the issues that are touching on employees, how you manage those employees. The other challenge that would come with it would be business performance. If the employee relations are not managed well, of course, obviously, it will affect how that business is performing. And if we are not careful as business people, we could shut down our shops because of the way we are managing our team members. Of course, the other major risk when you're engaging people is reputational risk. Again, when you're engaging employees, when you're engaging people to come and work with you, there's a reputation risk. How they manage clients, how they portray your brand out there, there's a reputation risk. So the question comes in, as to how then do we mitigate some of these risks to ensure, again, it's not going to be a major challenge as we continue running our businesses. And one of the things I would say would be start with proper documentation. Now you have engaged me as a good talent in your organization, and you are looking forward to having a great relationship with me as an employee. So the first
Yes.
thing we need to do is to make sure there's proper documentation in place. And when I talk about proper documentation, there's a contract in place that is well understood by the employee and the employer. There's a job description that tells me this is what I'm supposed to do. These are my KPIs. This is the expectation of me from the employer. And this is also my expectation from the employer. I expect the employer to pay my salaries on time. I expect them to make sure I have the right tools for the job. I expect them to provide a safe working environment for me. So you find both parties actually have expectations, and it's important to lay those expectations from the word go.
Sure.
Now, once you do that, again, as you go along, I always say where there are people, it's like putting eggs together. At some point, if you don't put measures in place to make sure they don't break, they will hit one another. And so are relationships. So even as you go along, it's important to also make sure there are policies in place that would guide, the employee and the employer. How do we behave in this relationship? How do we manage the challenges that will come along while we are working together? When you look at, for instance, the organogram, does the employee know where they're reporting to? Or is there so much confusion in the organization that the employee does not understand? And this brings about a lot of other challenges that will touch on how we relate with our employees. So that is the first place we will start in terms of documentation. Now, the other thing to look at would be proper management of the employees. And again, we'll touch this a bit as Kenjie comes in. How do we manage these employees when, there are issues that are arising? Have we set, clear boundaries on how we are going to deal with issues that come up as we're working together? And do the employees understand this? As an employer, do you understand this? Do we understand the laws that govern us as an employee-employer relationship, so that, again, we are having a conducive working environment? And of course, the other thing that I would mention before I allow Kenjie to chip in would be managing issues that could come up, like disciplinaries. You have a disciplinary issue that has come up from a good employee that you've had, a challenge that has come up, and there has ended up being a situation where there's a disciplinary issue. How do you manage this? How do you document some of these instances that come up, so that, again, it doesn't become a major problem all of a sudden, and it's been a perennial problem, across the year, that no one has bothered to look at it or bothered to document the same, and all of a sudden it's a big problem. So there's a lot of things that I think we can do to mitigate some of these risks.
Right. That's from an expert point of view. Kenjie, as an entrepreneur, on the other side, you are the one hiring and firing.
Yeah.
How do you, from your perspective, how do you look at risk management in employee relations?
Risk management. I think already, Zippy, you've just laid it out very well. I mean, what more can I add? I feel like my information will be useless at this point, but maybe to give it from a startup perspective and also as an entrepreneur. So the first thing, I think the inception starts with the entrepreneur or the proprietor or the business owner. You really have to have a clear vision, because it all starts from the top. Because when you're bringing in an employee, who's an employee? These are teammates. When you're bringing in talent, you're building a dream team. All you're saying is, guys, may I have this vision? Are you sold to it? If you're sold to it, I need your skill, I need your talent, and I need your time. And I'll compensate you. That's what it is.
Yeah, very
it's
true.
not about just filling positions. So even managing risk starts with, do you understand? Do you have a very clear vision? Do you have a very clear even roadmap to how to get to your vision? And then now engage the HR department, or like the way as we outsource from you guys, which you do an incredible job.
Thank you.
We tell you exactly what we want. We tell you what we're looking for, because as a kingdom business, also our criteria for hiring is different.
Come on.
You know,
Yeah.
yes, we start by calling. We have 3 C's. We look at calling, then we look at character and competence in that order. So even before we start saying, oh, the guy has great talent, I'll be like, wait, is that his calling? Is he in his element? And you can tell very clearly, you know, I say, and especially when we're hiring, when you come to the last stage,
yes,
I can tell someone who's passionate and who has the calling, even has his own pet projects. Because the guy doesn't do it. Because the reality is, there are not enough jobs. Jobs are there, but those that don't get an opportunity to be hired, they're creating their own. They're having their own projects. And for me, that shows there's purpose and calling there. So I'm like, first tip. And then, of course, character is one of it's the toughest. It's the toughest to be able to evaluate from the get-go. That's why people are put on, you know, like a 6 months probation, just to check out the guy in different situations, you know.
Yeah.
So character is also one thing we check for, which is through your attitude, through, you know, are you a problem solver? Are you a critical thinker? Are you, hey, EQ over IQ? Is your emotional quotient greater than your intellectual quotient? Because sometimes it's not about hiring the best talent. It's about hiring someone who's able to work well with others and also giving his best and also allow himself to grow within the organization. So some people you find come in a bit bullish. You know, they know their stuff. So they're like, okay, Sam, here, give me the task. Let me do this. And there's a lot of rebuttal. You find you're telling them, okay, this is not exactly how we want to go. How about this? They start, you know, you see the ego, you see it start to pop. And that's what exactly is EQ. You need to be able to, in as much as you're good at what you do, try and blend in with people, see where they're coming from put in your submission respectfully, and then push the dial together. That's even what makes work enjoyable, not being the star always, you know. Anyway, those are things we look at very critically. And of course, competence at the end. Aptitude. Are you able to grow with us? Are you able to see what we see? And of course, that is on the employee end. There's a lot to do on this other end as the employer. People forget an employer, people are also watching you.
That's true.
Yes. Integrity is key. Does your action match your words? When you say you'll pay me on the 28th, best believe if I get my money on the 29th, there's a problem there. And don't just say it's a day. Meetings, you've called for meetings, you come in 5 minutes late, 10 minutes late, you are showing something. And all those let me say factors, they're the ones that constitute into an effective and a motivated team. And if you don't get those structures right, you suffer some risk. So I don't know, Tony, I might be going further, but I think I'm answering a bit of the question.
Exactly, a bit. I mean, I'm enjoying the way you have brought it. I mean, I'm liking the fact that I had kind of forgotten about the 3 C's when hiring. And I like the fact that you've described that employee relations is both employer and employee, because each is sizing the other. You know, you are sizing each other. I mean, you are an employee. You applied this job. A job has been advertised. You've applied. You've come in. You've signed in. Your CV, whatever. You're being gauged by this potential employer, and they've asked you all the questions. They want to find out: do you have the calling? Do you have the character? Are you capable? But also the employee, the prospective employee, if they're intelligent, they also want to find out, what do you guys do? Many people think that question of do you have any question for us during the interview? Then you are there, you are the prospective employee, you're thinking, mimi nataka tu kuandikwa kazi, no. I mean, you're also you're bringing your prospective capabilities to this team. I've met people who have told me that there are certain jobs, they went for the interview, they listened, they looked, they decided, no, I don't want to work for these people. I remember once, let me guys give you a story. I remember once, I think it was in 2011, 2010, 2011. I got to this interview at I won't mention the bank. I was still working, but I thought they had an opportunity in a line in the banking I really wanted to get into, in the line of credit. So they had this opportunity, they wanted credit officers, a proper credit officer to handle loans. So I went for this interview with my CV, I meet the panel. Yeah, they're asking me questions, I'm answering back, Nini, I'm giving them whatever they want to hear, just hoping that I will impress them. So they asked me, do you have any questions for us? Then I asked them a question. What is your current, I remember asking them, what is your the current size of your loan book as a bank and what you're intending to grow it to? I think they did not expect such a question. They started looking at each other. The lead interviewer used to work in the bank I was working in. So he had moved to that other place. So, but he left before I knew him very well. So, but I could remember him, he could remember me. I don't know why he felt like he couldn't answer me. I mean, he felt it. So I'm looking at him and wondering, okay, you guys are a bank. If I wanted that information, I'd go and look for the newspaper or online and know where you are at right now in terms of your loans and all that. So it's not secret. But they didn't give me the information. They felt it was confidential. So I remember asking them, I think this information is the public domain. Why is it confidential? You are asking for credit, people to help you in growing your credit book. So where is it now and where is it going? They did not answer that question. And I realized whether or not they pick me, I'm not interested working here.
Exactly. And that also, and Tony, that shows you the culture of the organization.
Exactly.
People say our organization is open doors.
Yeah.
Just walk in, tell us your issue, we listen. That is all theoretic.
My friend.
That is what is an open door policy. Why you give someone the opportunity to actually inquire more about your organization and about your processes and why you do X and Z. But now, what's even interesting, Tony? Let me tell you, hiring millennials. Utaona mengi. Guys, I remember there's a time we were hiring for a web developer. Okay. So the guy comes in, great guy. We really like him. And we, of course, end interview sessions with, do you have a question for us? What would you like us to know? He's like, so you actually build websites, but your website has a lot of bugs. Would you start by improving yours? Imagine that's feedback. Start by improving your website before you start building people's website. What? That room went silent. I'm just uncomfortable, but I'm like, okay. Thank you. That's positive feedback. I'm sure we'll pick it up after this. We'll work on it. I'm sure next time you'll check our website, you'll see improvements. Your time, nimeshindwa kumeza mate. So the thing is, we should be able to take in criticism.
Exactly.
And it's a measure of your emotional intelligence. Yes. Because you can't tell me that you want to work with a geared in fiery team if you're not giving them opportunities to be themselves. And that ties a lot with risk management. Those expectations. What
Yeah.
are you setting forth even for your employees? What do you expect them to do? How do you expect them to behave? Because it's also what's it called? It makes up the culture of the organization.
Yes.
Set those expectations, articulate them clearly, paint the big picture, and let them be themselves.
Come on.
And you'll also see your turnover with employees is less.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow, wow, wow. Wow, Kenji, I like that. For those who are watching, you're free to post your comments. Would love to read your comments, probably. If you have something that you want to plug in, comment something concerning what you're talking about, employee relations, please send your questions, send your comments. We will highlight them here, even as we go on with this very interesting topic. Now, Zippy, let's shift gears because I'm thinking, okay, we have hired right. Somebody has the three C's. They are, they are they're in the team. They're running. You're the employer. You have them. They're doing ABCD with time as human beings. And you spoke a bit earlier about handling issues to do with, now, people are living together. As it were, there is when people are rubbing each other, there is friction. When you're working there, you're living, you're waking up, you're meeting, you're sitting each other, you're sending emails, you're receiving emails, you are collaborating, coordinating. At times, issues come up, issues called grievances. So, when it comes to employee relations, how do we handle grievances from that aspect? What's your view on managing grievances?
That's a good question, Anthony. And I think grievances is one of the biggest challenges, if not managed well, that ends up becoming a big risk to the organization. If you remember earlier, I talked about some of the risks, and I talked
Yes.
about litigation. Now, if you evaluate where litigations are coming from, you will
Hmm.
actually go back to find is probably grievances that were never resolved. So
Very
what
true.
happens, like you said, when you have people together, there are grievances that will probably come along. And sometimes
Mm.
we start small as an organization. So the grievances would come to you as employer. For instance, like Kenji, you probably find if you don't have other team leaders, probably employees will bring grievances to you. When they bring those grievances to you, if you put them on the side and they don't get resolved, then something else comes up, it's still not resolved. It ends up
Mhm.
becoming a big mountain. And that is actually what ends up becoming a risk. And if you look at bigger organizations, you find there are departments, there are managers leading those departments. A lot of
True.
times you find grievances will go to those managers. And I always keep on saying, and I always say this a lot when we are doing trainings. And for those who might be looking for trainings, these are some of the things we offer training on. And you find an employee as an issue, so they go to the manager, and the manager sits with that issue. They says, I will follow it up with the management. I will come back to you. They do nothing about it.
Mhm.
Now, there's a language employees always use when they feel their issues are not resolved. They always say, this management does not do this. This management does not listen to us. This
Mhm.
management does not do this or that. And I always tell middle level managers, you are part of the management, because when that
Mhm.
is coming to you, they are expecting you to resolve their problem because they probably don't have the opportunity to get to the higher level of the management. So when you
Yes.
sit with those issues unresolved, then what happens? It becomes a buildup of many issues and it ends up becoming a challenge. Sometimes, as business people, we end up dealing with litigations that we have no idea where did this even begin. So when you start
Yes.
digging in, you realize these are issues that were actually reported to the line manager. The line manager never resolved it, and it ended up being a problem. So one of the biggest questions would be to our viewers, to our employers, to HR managers. How well are you training your middle level managers to understand how to
Mhm.
manage employees' challenges that are coming on a day-to-day basis? Because we always say we train for HR for non-HR managers. And the reason we are training managers is because they are managing people. They are not just
Exactly.
managing the work, they are managing their issues because employees will come to work with different challenges. So, how do they manage these people aspects of the employees they are managing? So, it's important
Yes.
for us to train them. The other thing I would say is have a grievance policy or a grievance, how employees are able to handle these issues. A grievance handling procedure where an employee knows if I have a grievance, this is a procedure
Yes.
that has been laid down by the organization, and this is a process I need to use to make sure my grievance is, heard and resolved.
Yes.
Again, have that documented. Let's not have grievance handling procedures that, it's known out there, but it's not documented. It's important for us to document some of these things and make sure employees understand. The other thing is learn to give employees feedback. When an employee has come to you as a line manager with an issue and you said, I will look into it, I will get it resolved, resolve it and go back to them and give that feedback. I find that very important. Sometimes it's something very minimal, something very minute. It looks very small to you as a person who is handling it. But to this employee who has brought it to your attention, it's actually not a small thing. It's a major issue. So it's important for you to go back and say, this is what I've been able to do. This is how I've been able to resolve it. Or it's not resolved because of 1, 2, 3. Or we are not able to do this because of 1, 2, 3. And trust me, employees understand so long as they get that feedback. The problem is sometimes we don't give the feedback, which is actually completely wrong. Think about it. Even if you are to be put in that position, if you had an issue and you took it to someone, you expect them to come back and give you feedback of what needs to be done or if it can be done, so that again you know how to move forward. Okay, so those are some of the things I think is very critical. The other thing, of course, is when you're seeking solutions to these challenges, sometimes also engage the employees. Sometimes they have the solutions themselves. So
Oh, yeah.
sometimes we also think we have all the solutions. It's not every time we have all the solutions. Our employees actually have greater ideas. Kenji has just mentioned of this employee who came for an interview, and they already had a bigger picture of how to make a website better. And it does us they're thinking, what? We are website developers, we do this very well. But at the same time, someone else is looking at it from outside and thinking your website has a lot of bugs. Before you start doing this, resolve your own challenges. So sometimes the employees actually have solutions to the challenges we are facing or they are facing themselves. So it's
That is
important for us to engage them and ask them, what do you think we should do? How do you think we should manage this? Give us your opinions, give us your ideas. And when they give us those ideas and opinions, let's not brush them off. Let's take that into consideration. I've seen situations where employees will say the management never takes our views seriously. They never take our views when they are making decisions. So what happens? When there are views and good views, they sit with them, they don't actually bring out those views. And we always say when you're engaging employees, we need to have entrepreneurs. We need to have people who will help us move our businesses forward. Because, like Kenji said, we are engaging you because of the skill you have. We are engaging you because of the talent you have that we don't have. So why don't we find better ways to utilize those talents? And that will be my take on that question.
wow, wow, wow. Apo, you have really given us the gist of HR. I like the fact that you've said that here at Aurum Consultants we offer training for HR for non-HR managers, where we train line managers, mid-level managers on how to handle certain issues that relate to managing your employees. Kenji, from your perspective as an entrepreneur, how do you handle this issue of grievances?
Wow. So first, ZP, well said again. First we have to understand what a grievance is.
Yeah.
And a grievance. This is more of you've kind of rubbed the person wrongly, and then they just are expressing themselves one way or the other. And for me, before even we get to the point of let's manage this grievance, it's now it has gone to HR department. It's I look at it, and especially as I said, culture. How do you set a culture where you are able to create a healthy emotional and mental space for your employees? So what we do, and especially for us as Bawa, we are very intentional about emotional and mental stability. Very intentional. Before every meeting, we usually have our check-in sessions. And grievances are best addressed in a relaxed environment.
Very true.
Because a lot of times when someone has hurt you or done you wrong because of the nature of work, I mean, let me tell you, work, you're bound to rub each other wrongly because we have different personalities, we operate differently, and it's allowed to be different. Yeah.
Sure.
Now, but the system has to give you an outlet, because if you're only going to let out these grievances to your wife or at the bar or with that is unhealthy, because what you're doing, you're carrying the weight out of work on someone else who probably might not give you a proper solution. So internally, we usually have check-in sessions and we use something called sachet. So our team members know this thing called sachet. So sachet is it's sad, angry, scared as our negative emotions. Or let me say, those are the emotions that are not very nice. And then we have positive emotions, which is happy, excited, and tender. So when we check into this space where we get to share how we feel, because now what we're doing an emotional check, and a heart check and a mental check. You're not telling someone directly, do you have an issue with me? Or do you have an issue with XYZ? Because you know what they do? They will never tell you, but they will rant. In between them, they will be like, so to avoid that, create a safe space where we share authentically. And it starts from the leader. That day when I come and I just check in angry. And I'm angry because of XYZ. And I have to give context. But what we're doing is we're not blaming each other. We're expressing how we feel. So it's not a place where we come and actually now we express and then we say that person caused me that particular emotion. No, we're just expressing how we feel today, this morning. And that already, can I tell you, it has done 50 or 60% of the job. That expressing themselves authentically. And then, of course, after you close your check-in session, now you can follow up. If someone checked in that they were sad because of XYZ, or they were angry, or even if they were happy, sharing their happiness. Maybe they are happy they got something, a new baby came in, or they got extra income. People, and what's funny is work is very heavily affected by your life balance as well. So you find a lot of the emotional stability also comes from a point where their life also portrays that kind of stability. So it's important for you to be able to understand also, be more concerned than what happens in the workplace. Understand your employees more than just work. How was the weekend? Start with even general thing. How was the weekend? What did you do over the weekend? Those are touch points that help you connect better with your employees. And you find that naturally you will not have to have those severe cases of people feeling depressed because of their work, because you can identify it at a young stage. And also you find that there's a very good intertwined connectivity within the team. So that's how we manage. We've never gotten to disciplinary cases, thank God. And I don't see them coming, because I see the team as emotionally stable from the get-go. Yeah.
Wow. Kenji, that is deep. That is deep. As you are talking, when we began this series this month, one of the things Zippy said is that we are moving from industrial relations to employee relations. Now, Kenji, you let me say you are a millennial, because there are people who are listening to us who remember the term industrial relations. That was how employers and employees related. And industrial relations just meant that industry. It meant you are a factor of production when you're walking into the workplace. You and your computer and your tool and your everything are part of production. Me as an employer, I'm the entrepreneur. I'm the one who manages the factors of production. I'm not that old, but I do remember, let me not say I'm a dinosaur, but I do remember when I joined the workplace a few years back, that was the term, industrial relations. So it was an issue of, this, the way you describe, how are you feeling? Those are things that do not exist. I'll be frank with you. You don't come to the workplace in the 90s and say, today I'm feeling, dude, arrange yourself before you enter the workplace. Sort yourself out before you walk in. So I like the fact that as we move deeper into the 21st century, the workplace is really evolving. If you handle it the way it was in the 1970s, industrial relations, where you're handling that employee as a factor of production, same as land, electricity,
labor and capital.
Land, labor, and capital. You're handling them like that. Then you will lose big time. People will leave you in drafts. People will disappear. But in the meantime, I can see Jane Kanuri has really said something very nice. She has complimented Kenjie for the 3 C's. She appreciated that. She has also appreciated the fact that training line managers to handle employees' grievances. And she said that those are great insights. Thank you, Jen, for your compliments. Indeed, they are great insights. In training employees and training line managers to be the first line, to be able to handle whatever is coming to them, making them understand they are also part of management. Do you know something, Kenjie? I'm reading a book by Lee Kuan Yew, known Singapore, the story, something to do with how Singapore moved from third world to first world. And there is a chapter he has there, a whole chapter about Japan and the way it rose up to become a first world country and the techniques that the Japanese used to be able to be in the first world, especially in the workplace. And I'm telling you the truth. That issue of training line managers, the Japanese have perfected it. Kabisa. As in, you have to prove yourself as a line manager before you move up to become the head of Toyota, the head of Mazda, the head of Honda, the head of Sony. Hapo kwa line manager, even if you are whoever, but first of all, before you become a line manager, you're first on the factory floor. You are an engineer, you have your degree, first class honors, go to the floor. Inama chini ya magari, get grease in your hands. You prove yourself, line manager. Now you know what it means to roll under the car, trying to repair something with grease and all that. So you understand and you bring that understanding now to top management. So that by the time you become the top manager up there, you understand what goes on at the factory floor, you understand what goes on at the mid-level, so you know what you're supposed to do. That's why Japanese companies generally have the greatest stability in the world. Toyota conquered the world. I mean, they went to America and out American the Ford and GM and the rest, simply because of understanding HR. Just understanding that HR and dealing with grievances as we go. Now, our time is really going. I don't know. Do you have something to say, Kenjie, on that?
No. In fact, I'm just like, you need to share the book. I need to learn from this Japanese. I find the eastern side of the world, in spite they're extremely mechanical.
Yes.
But these guys are result oriented. They've already developed a winning formula. And if we just tap into the formula, we can also do the same. Yeah.
Exactly. Now, as we continue, we head towards the conclusion of our discussion today, and we appreciate the comments. Keep them coming. Now, Zippy, the greatest challenges that you've faced as an employer, give us. I want to know, what are the greatest challenges that you think as an employer in managing employee relationship management? How have you gone about that? Both you at one time you are HR manager employed somewhere, and now you're running Aurum Consultants. Can you give our audience a bit of that?
Wow. Let me speak from a place of not just as an employer, but also from an HR expert, because I've interacted with people from different industries. And one of the greatest challenges, especially when handling employee relations, one of the things I've realized is a major challenge is unrealistic expectations. And I think this begins, especially think about when someone has been employed. You are simply looking for a job, you have a budget, you know what you're looking for. There's a reason why you're looking for that job. And you get this job, you settle in this organization. And after a few weeks, a few months, you start having, complaints, you start feeling, this place, I'm not getting what it is that I'm wanting. And you start wondering, where is all this coming from? Because when you showed up for this interview, you came
Yes.
along, you knew what you wanted, and all of a sudden, this there are issues. You're not happy. You know what is going on. And one of the things I have been able to pick out is, what misguided expectations or unrealistic expectations. And that's how I have been able to actually manage this. And we actually run a program because, and this actually came from some of these challenges that I've seen employers face. We run a program it's an internship training program where we take this young generation through a 3-month training program and help them, understand the work environment and how to settle in this work environment, what to expect, what behaviors to exhibit, and all that. And how we've been able to handle this is to have conversations, and manage
Yes.
these expectations. You can't come to a work environment, and let's assume you're working in a production department, and you come and find your manager is earning a 6-figure salary, and you want in another 2-3 months to be where they are. Yet you are
Yes.
forgetting this person has probably invested time to gain the experience over 10 years or 15 years to be where they are today. So you have to learn that you have to start from the bottom sometimes and grow along the way. So managing those expectations, especially for this young generation that is coming from school, is very, very critical.
Very
Because
important.
when expectations are not managed, then they become grievance issues, they become challenges. We start now going back to the industrial relations. And I believe this is why we have the Industrial Relations Act, because at some point you start finding people are unhappy and they start, downing their tools and they don't want to work. But it comes from a place sometimes of them not understanding this is where we're at. This is the vision and the mission of the organization. This is where I fit into the whole picture, because everyone has to fit into the puzzle. So once employees are able to understand that, I've realized even the lowest of the lowest cadre of employees are actually able to move forward and do their jobs without much of a challenge. But a lot of times, like we are saying, when you talk about industrial relations, it's like you're part of, the furniture, you are part of this whole picture that you're supposed to do this, and you're not, we are not treating them as, I'm looking for the right word, but we are not bringing them in as partners to help us in achieving what we want to achieve. We are thinking you need to produce this, produce this. So it's like you become part of the machinery. So again, when we start looking at employees from that perspective, the truth is we have to deal with the industrial relation issues. But if we manage those expectations, if we help them understand why they are here and how they fit in, then it becomes easier. The other challenge I have seen is accountability. Again, it also comes from a place of either employees not knowing what is expected of them, or sometimes we don't hire right. And in the process, you find an employee is overwhelmed. And because they are overwhelmed, they don't want to be accountable in what they are doing. They want to do things, but they want to keep on saying, I have done, but they are not being accountable of exactly what they have achieved. So again, I've realized that is also another challenge that will bring a bit of friction between the employer or managers and the employee, where you find an employee is not wanting to be accountable. And of course, they're expected to be accountable on what they're achieving. So I would say those are some of the things that I've been able to pick, and that's how we've been able to manage this.
All right. From your from your perspective, Kenji, I can see Jane is saying she would like to know more from Kenji, your idea in strategy where employees describe how they feel. She would like to know more about that. But before you answer that, let me ask your feel in regards to the greatest challenges that you've had in your with
Business.
Bawa. All that, yes.
With Bawa.
Yeah.
So Zippy has said, in fact, she's touched on what I was going to mention. I think the first thing is expectations. Employees come with, and especially because I deal with a younger team, a lot of them have, let me say, false expectations of the workplace, generally, and it's great. I like the fact that sometimes these students, because they come in fresh as graduates, or they've just gotten their first job, you find they've been gassed, or rather, a lot of confidence has been put in them that they're the best they can achieve, which is great. I like come like that, but also there's a reality of the workplace, and the reality is that it has its own challenges. There is also gradual growth, as Zippy has said, and then also salary expectations. We all start from somewhere, and of course, when you prove yourself, it will always come naturally. People will see a good thing, and you will always be you'll get other opportunities. So
Obviously.
I feel one of them is expectations, especially from the millennials, and then also work ethic. Work ethic is something that sometimes it's hard to train work ethic. It's an attitude, and it's also I also call it's a point of resilience, where you also see yourself as, I need to be better. So you need to also educate yourself and try and create solutions for your employer, and not always just take. You have to always be also in a position to give. So when we understand work ethics, they're very simple. Try and educate yourself on the industry that you are in, get more information, try and be better. Then simple things: keep time, deliver on time, over communicate, and especially in this day and age. So for us being a remote business, we are an online business. Oh man, if there's one thing we actually get a lot of pushback is on that particular thing, delivery. So you find, because you can't monitor people, you're not in one space, so there has to be a very clear expectation, and also their systems of tracking accountability. So there's, what are the deliverables, when do we need them, at what time, and what is it, XYZ. So there's more of a communication from the employer, and that means the person who's delegating the task. It could be your line manager. And then there's also need for over delivery from your teammates. They have to go above and beyond the brief. Whatever you've given them as a task, they should be able to see how they can move beyond that just particular task that you've given them, or else they'll just be doing bare minimum. Which also brings me to the other challenge: keeping your employees motivated. There's a way humans are. We can just put autopilot. We operate on bare minimum. 10% of your mental faculty is being used, just to get by. And sometimes I've really experienced that, especially when you're working remotely, because we lose the in-person contact, and everything is inanimate. You're dealing with objects, screens, computers, lenses. So you kind of lose touch with the human aspect. And sometimes, that thing of being in one room, you feed off energy from each other. So there's a certain way, if I show up in the office, I can rub on my energy on that other person who maybe is not having such a good day. But if you are isolated in your car room, working from home in your bedroom or in your station, you find that you have to really do more to motivate yourself and to get yourself going, because they're not, you have a very thin support system to do that. So I usually find that's a huge one when you're trying to manage your relationships. If you can have ways, what we usually do, we have sessions called Daro. We have they're like game days, while like Fridays we just play some online games. Very interesting, simple ones. Just you. There's one we usually, it's like Pictionary. You draw something, someone tries to explain what you've drawn, and it's just hilarious. It's so simple, but it makes a huge difference because you're trying to connect remotely. That's a huge challenge for online business, keeping their employees or their team engaged. That's a huge one. To answer Jane's question about the strategy for check-in, it's very simple. If you can even Google the word sachet, it's a global model for checking in. It gives you a whole rollout of how to do it, and also the most important thing is create a safe space. So it won't work if it's not a safe space for employees to express themselves. And it has to start with the leader. You have to be authentic. You can't say I'm happy and excited, yet you entered the meeting kaumefura, or you just you have that energy, you just want to battle someone. You have to be authentic. If you're actually sad, express. If you're angry, express. You might not have to give the full details, but at least mention and articulate how you feel. It helps a lot.
Wow. Kenjie, wewe mtu employee relations, sisi ni watu wa industrial relations. Sisi, I'm trying to imagine a Pictionary. I'm doing Pictionary. I think I'm a bit too old-fashioned. I don't know.
Fossil. Are you a
I'm a
fossil?
I'm the kind of guy, I think I was trained from the very beginning. When you're waking up to go to work, motivate yourself. Crank up the shaft. By the time you leave the gate to go to work, to enter the office, you're sufficiently focused on what you're supposed to. Obviously, it had its positive and negative aspects. And many of the millennials who are now joining the workplace, probably that would not cut. I mean, to them, why should I mean, please, what do you mean I need to work myself up? And that is why part of it that we here at Aurum Consultants, we are doing something that we call the Recruit Program, where we are training fresh graduates how to get a soft landing into the workplace, especially people who are either, what do you call them? What do we call them, Zippy? The people who have just, who are internship, that's the word, who are in internship. The Recruit Program is mainly for fresh graduates, either from college or from the university, who are fresh to enter into the workplace, but they don't know how to navigate this world where you're being told, put your fantasies at the side, enter the workplace, and this is the reality. We run a 12-week program called the Recruit that enables fresh graduates from the university, from college, to be able to join into the workplace and know the expectations that they need to manage, also know what they are facing, what they need to deliver, and what they need to expect. Now, as we come to the close, I want to thank Charles Thiongo. Thank you for your compliments. We want to appreciate them. Thanks, Jane, for your comments. We really appreciate them all. Now, as we come to the close of our program, is there something, Zippy, probably you want to give your final comments as we draw to a close?
Thank you, Anthony. I think we've been discussing this topic for the last 3 weeks, and I want to say, more often than not, when we talk about employee relations, a lot of times we need to realize that this is not just a one-sided relationship. It's a relationship that involves both the employee and the employer. So we are not, when we are talking about employee relations, I think it's also important for us to realize also the employer, as needs, as expectations, also needs to be related to, because a lot of times we elevate the employee relations and we overshadow actually what the employer's expectations would be, and we overshadow what their rights would be. And I always actually say this to even the employees, that even the employers have rights. Even as we talk about how to relate with our employees better, it's important for employees also to realize they have a role to play. So it's not a one-sided relationship, but a two-way relationship.
Yes. Wow. Kenjie, your final thoughts as we come to a close?
Yeah, first, ZP, Tony, thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed this. This was fun.
Thank you.
To conclude, I mean, what can I say? Despite or in spite of the size of the team, I think establish a culture of care. Make it part of your DNA. I think it's one thing you cannot manufacture. You can have the best HR teams to come and manage that for you.
That's true.
But if you set it and inculcate it as part of who you are as an organization, where you go above and beyond the work and care about your partner, your teammate, your employer, you'll see things turn around. You'll just have a healthier organization. You will see even your productivity levels bump up, and you'll see engagement in terms of people even coming in and wanting to improve this project or this thing that you're doing. So for me, care is like the backbone of it all when it comes to relations. Let it be genuine, let it be authentic, and at the same time, model it as an organization. If you are the employer, the HR department, model it from an authentic standpoint. Yeah.
Come on. Thank you, Kenjie. That is really, you've really encapsulated it nicely. It's about authenticity. Don't talk about your caring and your body language, your attitude, the culture within company. The company does not show it. Now we have come to the close of our podcast today. Thank you. I want to give thanks to our panelists, Zippy and Kenjie, for the great insights, and to our viewers also for engaging with us. We will continue bringing insights into the different aspects, different topics of the working environment. I would like to tell our viewers and listeners that you're welcome to give suggestions on the topics you'd like us to discuss on this podcast that relate to the HR aspect of the workplace. If you'd like to get in touch with us, our contacts are at the bottom of the screen, via email, via YouTube, via LinkedIn, via Facebook. You can always get in touch with us through our website too, and we really appreciate you for your time. Looking forward to next week, where we will bring in a new theme. We'll have a new theme that relates to the workplace, and we look forward to it. I am sure you will enjoy being with us here. So thanks for your time. See you same time, same place next week. God bless you.